following is a presentation of HBO Sports.
Hard left hand by Ruiz. Here's his opportunity. Big left hook by Toney. And the right hand. And the bell saves Giraffe. John Ruiz and James Toney, two major players in the muddled heavyweight division. Critics may hammer current belt holder John Ruiz for his awkward style, but they certainly can't argue with his success. Oh, good shot. Big left hand by Ruiz.
Give it to Ruiz. He's bleeding. He's fighting. He's not giving up.
Since his loss to Roy Jones 2 years ago, he's beaten Hasim Rahman, Pres Oquendo, and Andrew Golota. But does Ruiz have the momentum to claim the heavyweight throne? In the early 90s, James Toney was considered pound for pound one of the best fighters in the middleweight divisions. In 2003, Toney returned as a cruiserweight, defeating Vasily Giraffe in the fight of the year. Oh my God! Huge left hand by Giraffe! Toney! That's it! That's it! It's down! And James Toney has resurrected his career. 6 months later, as a heavyweight, he knocked out former champion Evander Holyfield. In a division without a clear champion, tonight's fight could bring some clarity to the heavyweight landscape.
Measured from the armpit to the end of the fist for James Toney. If that measurement becomes reach, the wingspan from fist to fist, Ruiz is longer. That's because his chest is so much bigger than JT's. Weight 241 for Ruiz. He had clothes on, probably really weighed 237 or 238. 233 for Toney, again with clothes on, probably around 230. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The John Ruiz, James Toney fight is scheduled for 12.
Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the green trunks, official weight 233 pounds, professional record 68 victories, including 43 knockouts, with 4 defeats and 2 bouts even. From Ann Arbor, Michigan, now training and fighting out of Los Angeles, California, introducing the WBA #1 ranked heavyweight challenger in the world, the 3-time world champion, James Lights Out Toney. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing black, official weight 241 pounds, professional record 41 victories with 5 defeats and 1 draw, and he has scored 28 knockouts. Presenting the Puerto Rican pride of Chelsea, Massachusetts, the 2-time heavyweight world champion, the reigning, defending WBA heavyweight champion of the world, John, the Quiet Man, Ruiz.
Baby, you told me to get over here, and I get over there, whatever you want. Gentlemen, you were giving you instructions at the weigh-in. Stoney, please.
2 guys here, one.
Okay, one guy go back. One guy go back. One guy go back. You were giving you instructions at the weigh-in. Please obey my commands. Respect the bell, and above all, protect yourself at all times. God bless you both. Touch gloves. Touch them up. Very good. Thank you, baby.
Is this fight going to inspire fans to want to see more of the many recycled heavyweights out there, or the exciting featherweights?
Round 1 begins. John Ruiz goes forward behind the jab. James Toney slips it. And you're going to see that throughout the evening, as one of Toney's greatest abilities, Roy Jones, is to duck, slip, and avoid punches with his head.
Right. He have to make an adjustment to Ruiz's jab first, but once he makes this adjustment, I'm interested to see can Ruiz take James Toney's punch.
Ruiz over the top with the right hand, glanced off the back of Toney's head. Toney pounds a hard right hand to John Ruiz's rib cage, and he himself has said, I'm going to get underneath John, I'm going to get to his body, and I'm going to dominate the fight inside that way. Ruiz bangs the left hand off of James Toney's shoulder. John Ruiz, for his part, says tonight's the night when you're going to see him let his hands go, throw combinations, and land punches in sequence, rather than one punch at a time followed by a clinch. So he throws one punch, he clinches, and Toney steps out of the clinch and whacks him with a quick left hook.
A quick double hook. And that's what I meant when I said James' hand speed is much greater than John Ruiz's.
Two left hooks by Ruiz knocked Toney into the ropes.
Ruiz is trying to create distance between him and Toney.
Way to work out.
John Ruiz almost seems a little too relaxed outside there with Toney's hand speed. That's bothering me a little bit. I think Toney will catch him with a straight right hand soon because he's not out there where he used to be in there. He used to be in close in the clinches like that.
Larry talks about how Ruiz is creating distance against James Toney. My sense of Ruiz, Roy, is that he doesn't like to fight outside. He doesn't really like to fight way inside. He likes to fight somewhere in the middle, and he lands a left to the body and tries to get a right hand upstairs.
And Toney landed a clean right hand in the middle of that exchange. Didn't have any effect, seemingly.
Yeah, but you know, Toney is a late round fighter. He's not looking to have much effect right away. I don't think he ever really was a one-punch knockout guy early. He usually gets the job done with an accumulation, takes his time, play the mongoose roll, let the guy wear himself down, then he lands the big shot.
Can he be a late round fighter tonight with that body?
Oh, yeah. This is what he does.
Because he doesn't really move his feet a lot, right?
No, he doesn't. And John's not making him move his feet a lot either.
Hard jab by Ruiz.
That's a right hand by Toney, actually.
And there's another right hand and a left over the top by Toney. James Toney is so quick at countering inside that by the time I call a Ruiz punch, James has already landed the counter.
Step back, step back, step back.
Round one saw some action on both sides. As we go to Ruiz's corner, we remind any of you who have not watched John Ruiz a great deal before that the language in this corner may conceivably be more profane than you're most accustomed to.
Come on, baby, get the work.
Not if you're watching Deadwood.
He's trying to counter. He's going to try to counter punch you with everything. All right? Double jab right here. Stay to the right.
All right? You land a couple jabs, then you feign one and go over the top of the right hand. Beautiful. Yeah. Every chance you get, whack that body. Touch the body. Keep touching them, right? Deep breath. Yeah, boy. There's one in the bank right there. Okay? Good job. One round in the bank right there. I know.
Toney's plan is to work Ruiz's body through the first 3 or 4 rounds.
CompuBox numbers in round one. John Ruiz 9 out of 36. 24 of them were jabs, and he landed 7 of those. James Toney 13 out of 44. 11 of Toney's connects were power punches. Hard left hand up top by Toney.
Let him out, let him out, let him out.
I don't think Toney really landed a lot of body shots in that first round. He did land some effective ones, but I don't think he's really trying to hit his body too hard in the first round. He wants to let Ruiz know that he has to be respected like that.
Hard right hand upstairs as Toney brings it over the top, and John Ruiz grabs him, holds him, pops him twice with the right hand. Toney pops him back. I asked James Toney yesterday, Roy, I said, if there were no referee in the ring and Ruiz repeatedly clinched and held you, what would be your remedy? He said, I'd throw him over the top rope into the stand.
And he would. That's his fight. That's why I told him this is tailor-made for James. James loves the inside brawling type fight. He's one of the smartest, slickest fighters of all time.
How many conversations did you have with Toney about fighting Ruiz?
I didn't have none. Like I said, back when I fought him in '94, I would have told him then to go to the heavyweight division. I kept making mention of it in articles, hoping that he'd read it, so that people would know that he's a good fighter and he'd be a very good candidate for this division.
No hitting behind the head.
Steve Smoger warns John Ruiz for hitting behind the head. Ruiz was also doing a pretty good job of holding Toney's right arm while he pounded him over the top with the right hand.
Yeah, but I told you he was too relaxed out there. James is going to consistently hit him with that right hand until it probably takes him down.
They trade jabs. Toney steps forward, and John drapes his left arm behind his neck. James showing his hand speed, and there's an abrasion on the middle of Ruiz's nose already.
From that straight right hand.
Push off, good.
He has John a little confused now. John doesn't know what to do because this is not John's fight. John's not used to fighting outside like this. John's fight is inside, pinching, holding and punching. Right now he doesn't know what to do.
Hands up, excellent, excellent.
James is able to land his right hand with regularity, just bringing it straight over the top. Now there are some hard body shots by Ruiz. He lands a left hand upstairs. Toney counters perfectly with a straight right hand, then backs up against the ropes.
Pull your hand out, Johnny. Pull your hand out.
I think Ruiz might have gotten Toney's attention with those two body shots.
Good.
He did, but James ain't worried about that. That's what James does. He knows he has to give up something because he's a heavy-footed fighter, so he doesn't mind giving up the body shots.
Toney reaching with the right hand. Ruiz inside with a little right and left.
Don't punch. Very good, very good. Step, step, 10 seconds.
Biggest moment in this round, a warning to John Ruiz for hitting behind the head.
While a bear holding python strangling Ruiz, where you used to seeing, to his credit, he's trying to fight a more intelligent fight against a smaller opponent.
Is he trying to be more crowd-pleasing?
No, I just think he sees a smaller guy in front of him, and he knows that Toney is very good at close quarters, and so he's trying to stay outside. But one of the interesting things is when he crouches, Roy, he's almost the same size as Toney.
Yeah, but one thing is, while he's outside, he's up so straight, and he can't let James keep hitting him with that straight right hand that James just hit him with, or he won't last long.
Well, there's a perception emerging over the course of the past couple of fights that Ruiz, who's never been regarded as a big puncher, is an underrated puncher, and actually won his fights with Galata and Rahman partially because he intimidated them from time to time with the right hand. Does he have some pop?
Yeah, he has a lot of pop, and a lot of guys don't really respect him for his punching power, but he is a beautiful puncher. You don't see many fighters that can knock Evander Holyfield down with one shot.
And he did.
That sums it all up right there.
Step out, very good, very good.
That was at a moment when Holyfield probably had a little more physical wherewithal than when James Toney beat him up a year and a half ago.
How many knockdowns has he had since then?
They're trading shots here in round 3 of what is becoming a better than expected fight, and John Ruiz is landing with considerable frequency in this round.
And he better be very careful right here, because this is what Toney can hurt him with.
Toney tries to get back with a big right hand. Ruiz partially blocked it with the left.
Don't punch, don't punch. Step, step, step. Step, step, step. Very good. Hands up, hands up.
Toney not answering that fusillade from Ruiz.
He will. He's playing possum as usual.
Now Toney comes for the late round rally. Ruiz clocks him with a little left hook inside.
Step, step. Very good, very good.
A smile on Toney's face as he steps away. Hard right hand counter by James Toney after Ruiz tried his own wheeling roundhouse right.
And James gonna play possum with him from time to time to try to make him relax so he can hopefully catch him slipping, as we said, and knock him out.
James Toney freely predicts that he'll knock Ruiz out.
Well, he's landed some very solid years later in 2003.
CompuBox numbers in round 3. Ruiz 27 out of 62 punches thrown. That's twice as many as Toney, who threw 31, landed 10. Harold, how do you have it through 3?
Okay, Jim. 29-28, 2 rounds to 1, John Ruiz. Jim, in the first round, I thought James Toney, just got off a little bit slow. He sort of felt that, Ruiz. In the second round, James Toney just walked him down and whacked him with beautiful right hands to win it on clean punching. But in the third round, John Ruiz all of a sudden got aggressive and won that round. So 2-1, Ruiz.
Hard right hand over the top by Toney. Ruiz grabs and holds on.
And he's going to hit him with that right hand all night as long as Ruiz is trying to fight this outside fight that he's trying to fight.
John Ruiz is a guy who habitually averages about 40 punches a round. He just threw 62 punches in that last round. Might he be letting his hands go too freely, Roy?
No, it's not that he's letting his hand go too freely. He's usually fighting a more crossed over style, looking to grab the maul more. And because he's not in there right now, he's getting caught with his right hand consistently, like I said from round 1. He's not going to get out the way of the right hand as long as he's straight up like this.
Yeah, when you're holding and clinching 15 times around, you can't throw a lot of punches. He's been holding in this fight around 5 or 6 times around.
And that's a good point, Larry.
Well, if he could win fighting this way, maybe his popularity would go up a little. People want to see guys who throw punches.
But he getting caught with 2-minute right hands like this because he's not used to fighting this straight up in the air. This is not what he's accustomed to. This is not what he started out dancing with. This is not who he brought to the dance.
So John Ruiz seemingly taking a gamble, fighting a style that maybe favors James Toney, and Toney looks at his corner for approval after the big counter right hand, and Ruiz steps in and pops him with a little left. Toney's trainer, Freddie Roach, has been with some of the most outrageous characters in the sport, including Mike Tyson. So he can deal with James.
Had James followed that hook with the right hand just then, the fight may have been over with.
Ruiz popping the stiff jab into Toney's face, hammering Toney to the rib cage with a body punch. Toney shaking his head.
And that was a good body shot, though. Now John is moving his head a little lower like he usually does. That's the fight John had to fight. He can't stay there with his head straight up in the air or he's going to get knocked out.
Toney sticking his jab underneath Ruiz's chin as Ruiz begins to rotate his shoulders and move his head and still takes the right hand over the top from Toney. And Ruiz lands a left and a right as the round comes to a close. And Toney 11 out of 33, the slightly more accurate fighter. And now Harold Letterman has it evened up on his scorecard as the fighters on Letterman's card have split the first 4 rounds.
On my card as well.
Very good, very good.
Still, Ruiz throwing more punches, more active. JT stepping in and picking his spots. Good hard right hand to the body by Toney there.
Don't punch, don't punch.
I think Toney will bring his attack more downstairs as we go along.
Yeah, because Ruiz seems to be the one who's wearing a little bit. This is what James wants. I told you from the get-go, James is a late round fighter, not an early round fighter.
Many of us, myself included, expected him to fade in his cruiserweight title fight with Vasily Jirov 2.5 years ago. But fade was anything but what Toney did as he cranked it up in the late rounds, turned the pressure on from rounds 8 through 12, and won the fight.
One of the reasons that he fools people is that he has a remarkable ability to relax in the ring. A lot of athletes, and fighters in particular, get so intense that they get tense and they use up their conditioning. You can run 1,000 miles and spar 1,000 rounds and chop 1,000 trees down, but if you get tense, you use it all up, and James doesn't.
Never does he get tense, and that's why he is so good for this division, because he's one of the guys who can last. When those guys start to tire, he's just getting started.
Well, the paradigm for that, of course, George Foreman in his second career. How did Foreman win a heavyweight championship at age 45? He had mastered the art of conserving his energy.
He hurt Ruiz bad with that hook just then.
He did indeed. John Ruiz was wobbled by the left hook.
And he's still straight up in the air. I don't understand it. That's the dumbest thing he could do. He's begging to get knocked out like this.
It appears that John Ruiz simply takes it as a given that James Toney, a middleweight or a super middleweight, can't knock him out.
Well, he's going to find out different if he keep getting caught with these punches.
Well, I'm wondering. You know, I think that it's going to have to be a war of attrition on both sides because neither one seems to have done any serious damage with clean punches to the other.
Well, James hurt Ruiz with that left hook. I ain't seen Ruiz really hurt James yet.
No, I agree with you. He's landed some of the bigger, cleaner shots. And that was the first good, clean left hook.
Body shot by Ruiz. Perfect right-hand counter by James Toney.
And if I was Ruiz, I'd take that counter.
Ruiz still throwing 2 for every 1 that Toney throws, but James putting it where he wants him more often than not.
Okay. James, that is a beautiful hook. Okay, he's keeping his hands. He's just trying to protect against that right hand. Okay. See that change up?
You're letting him get that fucking right hand off all the time. Come on, baby. Come on, take a deep breath. Come on, relax. Need some Vaseline. I got it. You hear me? Come on. Come on, Toney. Nice and relaxed. You gotta push this guy now. Come on, man. Give him a little walk.
I know people who love boxing so much they walked out of the Ruiz-Galata fight because of the 16 clinches around. And so the expectations tonight were very low, and this shows the value of low expectations. This is a better fight than most of us anticipated.
So far, I myself am stunned to see the number of punches they're throwing and landing in this particular style matchup. I'm not surprised to see the punches that Toney's throwing and landing. I'm just amazed that Ruiz is letting his hands go as freely as he is and landing combinations the way he is, and still, as Roy points out, not hurting James Toney.
I think that seeing an ex-middleweight in front of him has emboldened Ruiz.
I think he's a little too bold, though.
Even his own manager and greatest supporter, Toney, told us that he felt that Ruiz had been fighting too much in a safe zone recently.
We have an online question from a viewer at HBO.com/boxing, Roy Jones. The question is, why does referee Steve Smoger repeatedly say very good after breaking the fighters up? My answer would be he likes to say very good. Is there any more to it than that?
Well, no, he said very good because Ruiz is not holding and hitting. Ruiz is not trying to clinch. It's not an ugly fight like it normally would be with Ruiz, so that's why he's telling him good job. He wants to encourage Ruiz to keep fighting a clean, good fight. But what's going to happen if Ruiz is not careful is that James going to step back and touch him one of these times on the clinch, because he will do that.
I think that's exactly right, Roy. The Smoker's doing a good job staying out of the way.
No punch, step, step. Step, 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 step. Very good.
Well, so far, it's been the most aesthetically pleasing John Ruiz fight we've ever covered. And for that, I think you have to give some credit to Smoker.
Well, yes, and to Ruiz, although, you know, it's all relative.
Well, I'm going to give a little bit of credit to you, Jim, because you sat down and told him what people didn't like about him.
Well, the fact is, John Ruiz, either of his own volition or on the advice of his people, called both Larry and me in Las Vegas a month ago and asked if he could sit down and talk with both of us, and I was able to make it. Larry was scheduled, and basically his question was, how could I be more entertaining? And it was a long discussion. There was a lot that went into it. It's not an easy question to answer. At the end of the day, I was more or less reduced to saying, you're winning your fights. Maybe you should be satisfied with that.
And he should.
Well, he was a living proof that winning isn't everything, because if you look out here, there are...
CombiBox numbers in round 6. Ruiz 15 out of 52. Toney 12 out of 29. Here's the first knockdown of the fight as James Toney shocks John Ruiz.
7. Ruiz is claiming that Toney stepped on his foot.
I thought he stepped on his foot too, but you know. That's how the game goes. It's contact when it happens, so that is considered a knockdown.
He lulled him to sleep by coming out lethargically from the corner at the start of several rounds. This time he jumped out of there and knocked Ruiz on his butt. So that's a scoring advantage, or potentially a scoring advantage, depending on what happens in the rest of the round.
Let him out, Johnny. Let him out. Attaboy. Thank you.
Ruiz does not look hurt.
Maybe his pride a little.
There are red welts around the left side of Ruiz's body.
From right hands to the body by Toney.
Down here, break. Sit out. Very good, very good.
Minute 50
Hands
left
up.
in a round in which Toney scored a knockdown of John Ruiz in the first 10 seconds.
Let him out, Johnny. Let him out. Don't punch. Don't punch.
Now, how could that knockdown and the point that goes with it, Roy, change the fight psychologically?
Well, it gives Toney the edge now. He thinks he truly can knock Ruiz down. I think he can hurt Ruiz again. And it doesn't do good, much for Ruiz's confidence. However, Ruiz has been in such ugly fights that I don't think it won't bother him too much because he's used to things like this.
John Ruiz popping his jab, continues to throw considerably more punches than in most of his big fights.
Very good. Push off, guys. Your hands are free.
This time, Ruiz able to protect himself from that right hand. But still, standing up, fights. He thinks of as a smaller opponent.
Yeah, I think he picked the wrong fight to change his fight plan, though.
Well, and also I think there was the concern that Toney is such a good inside fighter rather than an inside wrestler, that it was in his best interest not to be at close quarters all night.
Yeah, but see, that's what Toney hurt him outside there.
Hard right hand by Toney there. Ruiz trying to tell Smoker that he's being held behind the head. Smoker did nothing.
He said Toney hit him behind the head, but he got it back right there, so.
Another solid right hand by Toney. It's been a big round for James. He started it out with the knockdown, and Ruiz was not able to reverse the tide. It's been a very big round. A knockdown.
Yeah, it wasn't a knockdown.
But it's a knockdown on the scorecard.
And that's good for James Toney.
So ruled.
And that's good for James Toney. The other thing is that Ruiz seems to be fading a little now, but James seems to be getting better now. And James is, like I said, a late round fighter. So,
well, we're into the 8th round. John Ruiz has gotten off of the canvas to win before. In his last fight, he was knocked down twice in the 2nd round by Andrew Galata. Came back to win 8 of the last 10 rounds on 2 judges' scorecards to come from behind and overhaul Galata. But he was fighting the style that was most familiar to him that night, and tonight he is not.
Yep, and this style he's fighting tonight is probably going to get knocked down again.
Now that was a slip. Now that was a slip. No knockdown.
Blood starting to trickle from Ruiz's nose.
Well, Roy Jones has told you all night, James Toney's a late round fighter.
Push off, Johnny.
We're
Push
into
off,
the second half of the fight, and Toney has definitely stepped it up.
This is his time to shine.
And now Ruiz, who threw punches so fluidly in rounds 4, 5, and 6, is back to throwing one punch at a time.
Yeah, he's back to the old Ruiz, throwing maybe 11, 12, 17 punches around. And he's not going to win a fight like this, not against a former middleweight.
Oh, what a huge right hand by Toney there. But John Ruiz takes it well, although the blood is trickling from his nose.
I told you, as long as he stands straight up, he's going to get hit all night with that right hand. And now he's so befuddled, he don't know what to do because he's out of his own realm.
This is a simple matter of Toney's hand speed being too fast.
Just that simple. I said it all night long. There's no way he can get away from Toney with his hands this low and staying straight up in the air. He's going to eat that right hand all night.
Starting to think that every middleweight should come up and fight as a heavyweight.
I'm here. Step around, James.
Maybe Felix Trinidad would be unbeatable in this division.
You know,
no, that's not the case.
As Toney has pointed out, he was a 200-pound quarterback in high school, melted down to become a middleweight, and virtually every time out thereafter was fighting was a light heavyweight or a cruiserweight. The week of a fight is a middleweight. He had to melt himself down to make weight.
Toney's camp has loved to claim for years that he had to lose 38 pounds in 4 weeks to fight Roy Jones at 168 back on November 18, 1994. Wasn't long after that he drifted into oblivion.
Even then, I would have brought him back right in this division and made a champion out of him right then.
Would have been fascinating to see him fight Lennox Lewis.
Yep.
There is blood coming
from Tony's
mouth now.
Which may or may not bother James. He's old school.
No.
Work and their word.
Trust the Midas touch.
Balance, and does that have something to do with all the clinches he's been involved in?
Yep, he does have iffy balance. When he punches, he puts all his weight forward, and if you're not there, he's going to just about fall. But usually he's used to falling on top of his opponent.
Exactly.
And that's why he does it.
One right hand and land on the opponent.
Or 2 jabs and land on the opponent. Watch.
Not nearly as much of that tonight. Now, a couple of rounds ago, we were rhapsodizing about what a terrific job. Very good, very good. Steve Smoger has done as referee. Since that time, Toney has gotten away with putting his foot on John Ruiz's foot, helping to accentuate a knockdown. And he got away with hitting John Ruiz with a really good left hand after the bell at the end of the last round.
And I told you that would start sooner or later because you still have to protect yourself at all times. And Ruiz is trying to be so clean that he's forgetting to protect himself. So I knew that was going to happen sooner or later.
Toney, of course, old school, old pro, trained in the toughest of gyms, including Kronk. He'll tell you flat out, I'll do anything to win the fight.
And he's supposed to. That's why they used to call him a throwback fighter, because he'll go by any means necessary to win a fight. And he's supposed to do that.
He's also called a throwback fighter because of his subtle defensive skills, right, Roy? His ability to roll away from a punch.
The mongoose style. He's the best at it.
Hard body punch by Ruiz.
That's what Ruiz should have been doing all night. He better not relax right here. He's going to get knocked out relaxing. James is not the fight he can relax on right there.
If Ruiz had gone to the body more earlier, maybe he would have taken more of the sting out of Toney's punches.
Excellent.
Maybe he'd have stayed up even with Toney's foot on his foot.
And see, Ruiz is used to lulling heavyweights to sleep right here like this, but this don't work on a former middleweight.
Because?
Because this guy used to stand alert at all times. When you're middleweight, you got to deal with quicker hands and much more speed, so you can't go to sleep. So if a guy's trying to lull you to sleep, you're actually lulling him to sleep. And that's what's happened to Ruiz all night. He's used to lulling those slower-handed guys to sleep and sneaking his right hand in. But a former middleweight ain't going to go for that old trick. And it's very discouraging to Ruiz that every time he sticks out a big punch, he gets caught back. Make him have flashbacks.
So Toney is grinning and enjoying himself in there as round 9 comes down the stretch.
Can Ruiz change his tactic now for the last 3 or 4 rounds, Roy?
Well, if he uses his jab, he could, but I don't think he's going to use his jab that much. Because he's trying to fight this outside fight.
Should he just go after James and make it a brawl?
No, that wouldn't be smart because he's going to get caught with the bigger punches. And right now, I think James's punches are stronger than his.
Well, that eliminates 2 options. So what's left?
Use the jab, stay outside, pop and hold like he used to do.
He's landing more than half of his power punches, and that is an extremely successful ratio. Harold, how do you have it through 8?
Okay,
through 9, I should say.
86, 84, 5 rounds to 4. James lights out Toney. Jim, in the last 6 rounds, I thought James Toney won 4 of them. Power shots. I mean, John Ruiz has landed punches, but Jim, they're light jabs as compared to what James Toney's landing with that right hand. He's landing real solid shots. The shots that are doing damage, you can't miss them. The only thing is that he tends to take a round off once in a while. He didn't do much in round 5, round 6 rather, and round 9.
I have Toney ahead by 3 points.
Roy, is Toney scoring the fight in his head?
Oh, yeah, always. He's definitely keeping up with what's going on. He knows what's happening here. He's never out of what's happening. He's in tune with what's going on in the fight. Any good pro is going to be in tune with what's happening.
Has he purposely given away a round or two to buy a little rest?
To make sure he doesn't tire himself out. He's always going to save something in the bank. You can believe it.
Is there any more confident fighter than James Toney?
Nope, not at all. Even when he's behind, he's confident.
Well, of course, his first big splash was, big right hand by Ruiz, bigger right hand by Toney. Toney's first big splash was an 11th round KO of Michael Nunn to win the middleweight championship in a fight in which Nunn had won the first 10 rounds.
Exactly.
Ruiz seems to understand the position he's in and is trying to do some damage to Toney.
Not punching enough, though.
Both fighters seem to have slowed here in the 10th round. It's been a relatively high activity fight for heavyweights.
Just the fight Ruiz wants. This is the fight he should have been fighting now, but he may have waited too long to start doing the old Ruiz. Good body shot. That was a wonderful body shot by Ruiz.
And here comes Toney out of the mongoose crouch with another huge right hand. Ruiz firing back with the jab. Crowd comes to life again. 10 rounds complete. The champion. 10. John Ruiz unloaded 53 punches, 63 punches, his high output of the fight, but only landed 14 of them. James Toney 17 out of 37, including again more than half his power shots, 13 out of 22. And on Harold Letterman's scorecard, Toney stretches his lead.
James,
on Letterman's scorecard at the moment, John Ruiz needs to win the last 2 rounds and get a knockdown to earn a draw.
That's all right, enough, guys. Step out. Excellent, excellent.
Roy, in the middle of talking to his fighter between rounds, Ruiz's trainer Norman Stone paused and took about a 10-second look across the ring at Freddie Roach and James Toney, apparently to see what they were doing. What did he want to find out?
Don't punch, don't
Trying
punch.
to see was James Toney showing any signs of fatigue.
And of course, regardless of whether Toney shows signs of fatigue, Stoney's going to tell Ruiz he's dead exhausted anyway.
Exactly. But Ruiz is dead exhausted with him, so it's not a problem.
Ruiz still trying to land the big right hand that would change the fight. Toney seems to have shown us a long time ago that he can take Ruiz's big right hand.
At 233 pounds, why not?
There's jiggling fat around the rib cage of James Toney, but believe it or not, that jiggling fat helps you to take body punches.
Helps him absorb the punches. Oh, good shot.
Oh, what a big right hand. The hardest one of the fight, and John Ruiz is momentarily wobbly there.
I thought he was trying to play a little possum and encourage Toney to come back at him and he was standing there with the right hand ready to hit back. But it was a big right hand.
He's dead tired now. Toney needs to go to his body and will make it bad for Ruiz.
Toney, for his part, isn't going to overcommit. He's perfectly happy to land the big right hand and step away because he believes he's ahead in the fight.
And he is.
He's landed many, many more clean, clean hard punches than Ruiz.
Very good, very good. Break, don't punch, don't punch. Stop, stop, stop. Hands up, guys, hands up.
Ruiz's right hand has no steam on it right now.
Hey, don't
dead
punch,
tired.
don't punch, don't punch. Step out, Johnny, step out, James.
Last year, John Ruiz pulled out an 11th round knockout of Press Oquendo. That was a whole different kind of fight, and he had the edge over Oquendo most of the night. This is a different show entirely, and James Toney just landed another solid right hand over the top. Good hard body shot by Ruiz inside.
God bless you both. God bless you both.
This is the most crowd-pleasing fight we've seen John Ruiz in. The irony, of course, is he might lose his title because of it.
Yep.
If he was trying to bring more entertainment value to his game in an effort to galvanize the public behind him as a heavyweight champion, it was a valiant effort and maybe a brave idea, but ill-advised tactically in this fight.
And like you said earlier in the previous fight, you got to dance with who you came with.
Ruiz lands a right hand and Toney backs up.
Excellent. I'm here. Break.
Whether Toney's playing possum or not, John's got to go at it.
Yeah, Toney playing possum. You can believe that.
Hey, I'm here. Step. Hands up, guys. Hey, I'm here. Don't punch. Excellent. Step, Johnny. Step, James.
Combinations by Toney, letting his hands go. Ruiz trying to dig underneath to the body. Pulls Toney into the ropes. But after having thrown so many punches earlier in the fight, John Ruiz is now unable to throw as many as he might want to seek damage against James.
Then it ain't helping that Toney's beating his body. And Toney's backing him up now. He doesn't like to be backed up.
Excellent.
Even in his 3 fights against Evander Holyfield, I don't think I ever saw John Ruiz reach this level of exhaustion.
Because Evander Holyfield didn't beat his body in his bed.
He is worn out.
Excellent.
A minute to go. You heard Freddie Roach tell his fighter to keep on fighting. James Toney's taken a couple big shots in the 12th, but once again, giving about as good as he's getting.
And this is the right fight for James. Just be safe, stay close so Ruiz can't knock him out. And he's smart.
Which other top heavyweights can Toney beat?
He can beat the majority of the top heavyweights because of his style. Only person I think will give him a hard time would be a fighter like Hasim Rahman.
Come on, John.
And maybe Chris Bird. Quality.
And maybe Chris Bird.
So you're saying that Toney would beat the 6'7", 250-pound Vitaly Klitschko?
Most definitely.
I don't believe that, Roy.
They trade right hands. 12 seconds to go. Knows the fight's going to go the distance. And they rise in appreciation. Or at least some of them do.
Pretty good fight. Certainly a whole lot better than we expected. I thought James Toney clearly won the fight.
If the fight is closely scored, and certainly we've seen everything. There's Harold Letterman's final card, which is not closely scored. Toney winning the last 3 rounds to wind up at 116-111. But if the fight is closely scored, then that one knockdown, which took place at the very beginning of the 7th round, could turn out to be a critical point. So we're going to take one more look now and show you how Ruiz wound up on the canvas. Remember, the open bell for the round, Toney steps across and lands a combination. And watch, as Roy Jones pointed out, Toney's left foot will wind up on top of John Ruiz's right foot as he throws the left hook that puts Ruiz onto the canvas. A little push with the right hand just to seal the deal. Ruiz not actually going all the way down, but his left glove was on the canvas. Smoger issued the count, and that is one of the major obstacles Ruiz faces now in his hope that somehow he stayed in the fight on the scorecards. James Toney says that being a heavyweight champion was a lifetime dream of his. It certainly appears as though he may have annexed a heavyweight title. Don Ackerman, judge from the United States, scored Hopkins De La Hoya for Hopkins. at the moment at which Hopkins was knocking De La Hoya out. Jutra of Canada has had some fascinating scoring experiences in the last couple of years. Had Ruiz ahead of Oquendo at the moment at which Ruiz knocked Oquendo out in the 11th. Jutra is the guy who scored Juan Manuel Marquez versus Manny Pacquiao, 115-110 for Marquez, after Marquez had been knocked down 3 times in the first round and then controlled the fight the rest of the way with his counterpunching. Tom Schreck, young judge from here in the United States, had Ruiz ahead of Andrew Galata, 114-111, and that was the fight, of course, in which Galata scored 2 knockdowns of Ruiz in the second round. Now Michael Buffer stands by with the results of this one.
Madison Square Garden, we go to the scorecards. Don Ackerman and Guy Jutras scores the bout 116-111. Tom Schreck has it 115-112. All to the winner by unanimous decision. And new WBA heavyweight champion of the world, James Lights Out Toney.
Well, excellent scoring by our lights. Can't argue with those 3 judges.
Can't argue at all.
And a disappointed John Ruiz loses his title belt. This marks the 2nd time now that Ruiz has lost a heavyweight title belt. Remains to be seen whether he'll get another opportunity to go back into the mix and try to regain one. Meanwhile, James Toney now figures as one of the 4 fighters, along with Chris Bird, Layman Brewster, and Vitaly Klitschko, to control a heavyweight title belt and therefore a political foothold in the race to become the top dog in the division. John Ruiz holds the ignominious distinction now of having twice lost heavyweight title fights to former middleweights. And remember, only 3 former middleweights have ever won heavyweight title belts. One of them was Bob Fitzsimmons back in 1897. Who was the other one besides James Toney? A fellow named Roy Jones. Ruiz may want to stay out of the middleweight division in the future. Toney, if he were in California, it'd be illegal for him to light that cigar. Not sure about here.
Toney's very happy. He's done a good job resurrecting. Round 1 it would be because of how straight up Ruiz was. He just played right into the hands of Toney.
Larry Merchant stands by with the winner.
Thank you very much, Jim. Congratulations, James. Did you ever think you would see this day?
Yeah, I know I would if I put my mind to it. You know, I work hard, but unfortunately I only have 5 weeks for this fight. Not even 5 weeks, 4.5 to be exact. If I had my proper time 11 weeks, I probably would have knocked him out.
In all those years in which your career seemed to be careening from nowhere to nowhere.
Nowhere to nowhere to somewhere and back on top of the world at the WBA and soon to be undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
James, were you surprised?
Baby.
Were you
told y'all, all you haters out there bow down.
James, were you surprised at the fight he fought, trying to fight you from outside?
Yeah, no, I expected anything from him, which is, you know, John, an average fighter. But, you know, he did what he could to try to keep me off him. It wasn't enough. I told you, whatever we do wasn't going to be enough. Even with the short notice trend I had, I've had a lot of problems in camp. But, you know, I overcame.
Any signs of the...
Teddy Atlas, ESPN, y'all some losers. I told y'all,
James,
nobody beat me in that weight division. Fox, #1, baby. Best damn sports show, Lights Out Toney. On HBO, Homeboys only. What?
James, you're not very happy, are you?
I'm very happy, man. Larry Merchant, you're better than my man over there at Showtime. You know what I'm talking about. What's happening?
James, did he play into you by not fighting his normal fight of jab and grab?
Well, I was hoping he would do that because, you know, if he did that, I would be able to just step back a little bit and throw the uppercut, left hook, give him a back hip in case of the whiplash. But, you know, he was trying to stay outside with me and try to keep me off him, but it wasn't enough. He wasn't in that good a shape, and I wasn't in tip-top shape, but, you know, I had what it took. I dug down on him.
Were you able to overcome the lack of training time In the injuries.
Yeah.
Did any of that bother you during the fight at all?
No. Everything, all the injuries were out of my mind when I fight. Only time I had concern about my injuries was during training. But, you know, I buckled down and we just worked through it.
If you had your druthers, who would be the next fighter for you?
Well, I'm going to leave it to you, Larry Merchant, because you're the man at HBO, so I want you to pick the
Well,
I want
to fight Chris? Would you like to fight Chris Bird in a Michigan showdown?
We'll do that. We'll do that in Detroit. We'll do it in Ann Arbor, Michigan Stadium. I'll do it. I fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. I don't duck nobody. Now, you know I don't never duck nobody, man. I like to fight.
You said before the fight that you wanted to do boxing a favor by subtracting John Ruiz and adding you. What did you mean by that?
I just wanted to beat him. Get rid of him. You guys want to see his dog boxing ass again. You know, I think I did a boxing justice. We won't see John Ruiz no more. I'm pretty sure Don King's going to throw him in the trash can where he belongs. I don't know where Don got him in the first place. But, you know, he did. I tip my hat off to him. He gave me an opportunity. I did what I had to do.
We'll be seeing it down the road.
I hope so, Larry. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you, Jim.
All right, terrific performance by James Toney. He did what he said he would do. He beat John Ruiz to the punch. He showed his greater hand speed. He landed his right hand more or less at will, and he won the fight. Roy Jones, you say you think he would beat most of the top heavyweights. There are still some people who are going to say, okay, he's not a legitimate heavyweight. He's a middleweight or a super middleweight or even a cruiserweight fighting in the heavyweight division. He showed here tonight he's got a very good chin. Who could knock him out?
Well, there are fighters that anybody can get knocked out to get called wrong. However, the Klitschko guys aren't the answer for James Toney. As you see, Chris Bird had his way with them. Chris Bird was a small heavyweight. James Toney is a bigger heavyweight than Chris Bird, and to me, he has better hand speed than Chris Bird. Now, Chris throws far more punches, which is why I think he and Chris Bird would be a good fight, because it would be a classical boxer against a classical puncher. However, it'll take people like Rockman to give James Toney a problem. These other fighters, they won't give him a problem.
Roy, I don't mean to argue with you, but Vladimir Klitschko dominated Chris Bird and knocked him down 3 times.
That's Chris Bird.
Yeah, I thought you were saying that that the Klitschkos couldn't handle Chris Bird. You're saying the Klitschkos can't handle Toney?
No, they can't handle Toney. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Chris Bird. I said Toney.
Okay.
All right. I said he did his thing against the first Klitschko guy.
Right.
They went home and studied him, and of course they come back and know how to deal with the little guy. So the big brother probably can't. I mean, the little brother came back and made up for what the big brother missed. But as we see now, clearly the big brother definitely has to be the best of the two.
Right.
And Chris Bird beat him, right?
If you're James and you want to try to unify this title, you want to go after Bird next? You want to fight Vitaly Klitschko? Everybody wants Vitaly, right?
If you want to electrify the division, you go fight Klitschko.
All right. Larry's going to come back in just a minute to give us his final comments on what he saw here. And he's going to Ruiz's locker room right now to seek an interview with the fallen former title holder. But in the meantime, we're going to look ahead to a huge HBO pay-per-view event in Roy's former division, the 160-pound weight class, newly re-glamorized in the last couple of years. 154-pound world champion Winky Wright moves up on May 14 to fight Felix Trinidad. Let's take a look.
Is your dandruff